Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to episode 97 of Talking Asperger's with Andrew. My name's Andrew Marsh, and I'm autistic. My representation of autism is Asperger's syndrome, or as the diagnostic manuals prefer to call it these days, type 1 autism. Now, I don't particularly like that terminology, it doesn't fit with me, so I'm going to use the term Asperger's syndrome to describe my condition, or if I'm referring to autism more generally, I'll use the term autism in the broader sense. So, welcome to the webinar. And what I do in my webinars is I try and find useful things to help people who are employers or people on the spectrum as to how they can manage themselves or be managed in the workplace so that they can be better engaged and the employers can get the best out of them. Because we have some challenges, but we have some great skills as well. And I think we need to understand that just because we have a challenge about being around people and sometimes our social interactions are good, we're actually, some of us are very, very good at certain things. And if you find out how to hone that skill, you could be onto an absolute winner with someone who really, really wants to work and with the right support can do great things for you in your business. So I used to be a geologist. And this was all before I knew I had Asperger's, but I've always known I was different. And so I now put myself back in that position. I think, okay, how would I manage someone like me better in my business or in the business that I work for? How would I do that? What would I do? What things would I do that would help me, that would help the autistic person, help the person with Asperger's syndrome do well at work? Because ultimately that's what you want. You want people to do well, to be productive, to get on well with their colleagues, and to produce good work that drives the business forward, serves their customers and their clients, and everyone's happy. They get to share their rewards at the end of the year with a nice pay rise, and so the process goes on. So that's what I do. And I also help autistic employees and in people with Asperger's syndrome as to what they can do to help themselves. Because there are things that the individual can do in any situation to try and make things a little better for them in the workplace. So that's what I do. And each week I have a different topic about what I cover. And today's topic is an interesting one, actually, because it's very often overlooked. And if you get this wrong, you can have very stressed out employees. That doesn't just restrict itself to autistic employees and people with Asperger's syndrome. Anyone that you employ, if you do this or you don't do this, you do this wrong, you can create enormous problems for that person, the productivity of the team, and so on. So, what is today's topic? Well, it's allowing your autistic person, your person with Asperger's syndrome, to work at their own pace. Now, you're immediately thinking, oh my God, no, we can't have that. We can't have them take indefinitely for the task. Yes, you're absolutely right. You need to have a framework, a program in which you need the task done. It might be a simple task that, they can do in an hour or two, or you might be giving them something that's 2 weeks' work. In the case where it's a longer period of time, then allow them to work at their own pace. Have the briefing meeting, set out what you want to do, have the checklist, all the things that we've talked about before in previous episodes of this webinar. So make sure you've briefed them properly, make sure they know what they're doing, what their targets are, whether they've got individual markers or milestones within that 2-week or 3-week framework. But then agree your checking in points. Say, okay, I'm going to check in with you about mid-morning on the second day, just to make sure you've understood and you're going along in the right direction. That's a good starter point. Then have another check-in point towards the end of the first week. Doesn't need to be long, fancy, and detailed. It could just be you're having a cup of tea. How are you getting on? Can you show me what you've done? Rather than just taking their word for it, show me what you've done. Oh, yeah, that's all fine. That's what I was hoping that you would be doing. And then have another couple of check-in points in the next week. Within that framework, leave the employee alone. Let them get on with it. Let them take ownership of that task. And that's a really important aspect. If you give someone a task to do, let them have it. Let them own it so that they can do it in their own way. Yes, there's certain technical objectives to be met, and you've got to meet this certain amount of output and whatever it is, but allow them to go about it in their own pace, at their own pace, in their own time, knowing that they've got 2 weeks or 3 weeks to do the thing. So they can take ownership of the task. They can allow and program their own time so that they know within themselves, yes, I can do this section in 2 days. That section might take me 3 or 4 days. That'll take me into next week. And then I've got a couple of days to finalize it all and wrap it up and then present it back to my boss. All good, because the person then has ownership. It's theirs. They're doing it. They do not need, and I'm going to say this quite forcefully, they do not need the boss hovering over them. Have you done this? Have you done that? That's wrong. That's wrong. I've changed this. I want to make that. I want to do it like this. I want to do it like that. That's not how I wanted it. Stop. Just stop. Don't do that. Stop being the micromanager, because all you do, trust me on this, I've been in this situation, all you do when you have a micromanager, when you're the micromanager and you've got employees, what you do is you demoralize the member of staff. You've just changed it. You've told me you wanted it done this way. Now you've told me today you wanted it done another way. And 2 days later, you're going to change it back again or make another change. Stop doing that. Please stop doing that. And this is for any employee. This isn't specific to people who have Asperger's or autism. Any employee will be sitting there getting absolutely royally hacked off with you, the micromanaging manager who's always interfering, making changes, do this, do that. Leave them alone. If you do have a change, and I mean a proper change, something that's an instruction from the client that says, really sorry, but I want to change this aspect of the project, then what you do is you sit down with your client, you sit down with your team and say, okay, let me look at that with my team. I'll get back to you later on today or tomorrow to let you know how much longer it's going to take us to do, because we've already started some things that might now be obsolete, how much longer it's going to take us to do it, and how much more money it is going to take, so that you can approve it. So that there's a change process in the business, so that rather than just dumping it on, you've got to get this done by the same period of time, but they've made a change. No. Client makes a change, sit down, work out how long it's going to take, how much money it's going to cost, get their approval in writing. Okay. And if, like when I worked as a geologist, we would then take out a separate work stage on our timesheet, so that when we were doing stuff that was the change, we would put a different work code within that job number. There'd be a separate work code for doing work that was related to the change, so that come the reconciliation at the end of the project, yeah, we spent 3 man days, which was £900 on the change. And we told the client it would take £1,000 to make the change. We're in the budget that we agreed for the change with the client. Everything's above board. It's been written, been documented, been agreed. Everyone's happy. And then, having got that agreement from the client, you then go back and tell your team, we've got this change. This is what needs to be done. It's come from the client. So we are going to take longer to do this because we've done some work that is now redundant. They've agreed it's going to take, we've got an extra week or an extra 3 days to do this. And that's what we're passing on to you, so that you don't overpressure your employees to do an extra 3 days work within the 2-week period that they, quarts into pint pots don't go. So if you've agreed the change, you've agreed the cost, you've agreed the time, let your team know, so that they know, yep, this is going to be the change. This is what it means. This is how we're going to do it. And we have extra time to do it. And we have costed that with the client. That's how you do change management. That's how you let the person who's doing the work understand that, yes, there's been a change, and it's an important one, it's a significant one, it's come from the client, and then brief them about it and then let them get on with it. Don't keep making micromanagement changes. I want you to do this. That's not how I want it. Just stop doing that. Because as I said earlier, you will demoralize your staff. You will get them stressed out. And in extreme cases where you keep doing this time and time and time again, they are going to be off work with stress. They're going to be off work with chronic fatigue. They're going to be off work with migraines. They're going to be off work with irritable bowel syndrome. They're going to be off work with however stress affects them and their body. And they might not be off for a day or two. They might be off for a week. They might be off for a month. They might have gone to their doctor. The doctor's taken one look at them and go, "You're not fit for anything. I'm signing you off for 3 months." Then what are you going to do? You have stressed your team members out to the point where they can't work for 3 months. Who's going to do the work? You just dump it on someone else within the team so that they've got two persons work to do in the same time? Doesn't work. They'll get stressed out and the cycle continues. So it's really, really important that you respect the time of the people that you have doing the work. You don't hover over their shoulder every 5 minutes, checking what they've done, checking, nitpicking. Don't do that. We're in the third decade of the 21st century. We shouldn't have been doing that nitpicky stuff in the 70s and 80s. So let's not do it now. And that's 50 years ago. Come on. Let's step up and do the things right now and allow the person who is doing the work to do it, to take ownership of it and to do it, because they will do it better if they're given the opportunity to express themselves and do it. You would have set up with them at your briefing meeting. If you've got any problems or any questions, come and talk to me. If I'm not available at the time, see if you can carry on with something else and come and see me when you see me back in the office, or drop me an email, say, "I'd like to speak to you before I go today about what I'm doing," and I'll catch up with you then. You have to accept that the boss might not always be available because they're in a meeting or they're on the phone or they've got something else they need to do. But have that communication, have that system in place where the employee can say, "I need to speak to you today before I go because I want to just catch up with you and check on something with you. Can we do that before I go?" And the boss should say, "Yep, no problem. I'll see you about 5 o'clock. We'll get a cup of tea and we'll have a chat." That's how you manage change. That's how you respect the time of the person doing the work. And you're not nitpicking. You're not being a pain in the backside, because all that will do is increase the angst and the stress on that person. And that will be rippled out amongst all the other team members because they will see it. It's probably happening to them as well. That if you're a nitpicking micromanager, you're not just doing it to one person, are you? You're doing it to everyone. You prowl around the office like a predator. What are you doing? What are you doing? Hey, what's she doing? Have you done that? You haven't done that. You shouldn't have been doing that. Stop. Having set up what you want someone to do, told them the time, told them what you want to be delivered, let them do it. Let them have ownership, because you will get a better piece of work done if someone has the ownership of it. I'm doing this task. I've got 2 weeks to do it. I know how to contact you if I need to. You've set out what we need you to do. Let me get on with it. I can do this. I know how to do this. You've told me what you want. Leave me be. If I've got any questions, I know where to find you, but leave me be. We've got our agreed check-in points. That's fine. I don't need any more supervision. Leave me to it. Leave me alone. It's okay. I've got this. I know what I'm doing. Let me be. And your employee will be happily going on, knowing that they've got 2 weeks worth of work to do. Boss's interference or boss's checking in is going to be minimal. You know where they are if you need to ask them questions, and you just get on with it. You take ownership of it. You get pleasure from doing that because, oh, I've got this little shortcut with this spreadsheet that I do, and I can do that with that, and I can modify that. Oh, there's a macro that I can do on my spreadsheet to help me organize and sort this data. Perfect. Let the person do the work. That's why you've given them the work. Let them do it. Leave them be. It's really, really important on so many levels that you let the person have ownership of the task and you're not continually interfering with what they're doing. Because I'll tell you what will happen. You continually do that. What will happen is your better members of staff will get pissed off first and they'll leave. They'll go, "Don't need this. Company down the road does much the same thing. I can get a 10% pay rise by going there, and hopefully they won't have a micromanaging boss that makes my life hell." They leave. They go somewhere else. That puts more stress on the team you've got, puts more stress on the boss, and another person leaves. Then you replace them. then you've got to catch up, and it takes time and money to recruit someone. Doesn't matter what level that job is, it takes time and money to recruit someone. Someone's got to sort through CVs. Someone's got to interview them. Someone's got to decide if they're the right fit. Someone's got to make an offer. Those could be 4 different people doing that, or could be 6 people, with the same person sitting in 2 or 3 times, in on a meeting, in on an interview, in on a HR discussion about what terms and conditions are we going to offer this person. That all takes time. That all costs money. And meanwhile, you've got work that is going on when your team is short-staffed, puts the pressure on them. They will feel the pressure, and they'll go, do you know what? And then he's nitpicking again. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to leave as well. You will have a high turnover of staff. You can never keep people more than 3 or 4 or 5 months. If you're continually turning over staff every 2, 3, 4 months, you do not have a recruitment problem. You cannot say, oh, nobody wants to work anymore. No one wants to work for you because you're a micromanaging person who is making their work life hell, and they won't put up with it. If you're continually turning over people in one department, you're getting people turning over. You've gone through 15, 20 people in a year. You don't have an employment problem. You have a manager problem, because that manager is forcing them out every month. They can't cope with it. They leave. They'll find something else. They'll find somewhere else. And the whole process starts right over again, because your micromanager feels they have to be in control, and they're stressing everyone out. I've worked in that environment. I worked in the construction industry as a geologist in multidisciplinary consulting engineers. I've been in a micromanaging environment. It was not nice. I eventually left because it just wasn't serving me at all. There was no joy in coming to work. There was no pleasure in giving something back to a nitpicking micromanager who's going to find fault with it just because he wants to. I've been there. It's not good for your health. Trust me, it is not good for your health and well-being. And you shouldn't have to put up with it. If you're getting micromanaged to the point that you are stressed out and you can't sleep and you're barking at your partner and barking at your kids when you get home, you need to get out of that environment. You absolutely do need to get out of that environment. There will be other places locally where you can do similar type of work and not be put under those stresses. Trust me, there are. Or you can use your skills, and what's the word I'm looking for? Transferable skills into a different area of work. The skills you've got are transferable into another field. So you don't have to always do what you've done before. 80% of the skills that you've got will be ideal for another employer. The 20% is the thing that they do. That is the different thing. And you learn that because you're trained. And you would have to do that even if you were skilled at the industry that's in. If you're going into the same industry, you would still have to learn the processes and the nature of the business and what they do, what they make, what they serve, how they service their clients and customers. You'd still have to do that even if you had 10 years experience, because you don't know the company's specific problems, the company's specific methods of doing something. So 80% of your skills are transferable into another business, into another field. Never feel as though you're bogged down and you've got to go and work for a competitor because it's all you can do. You have got transferable skills. Trust me on this. There will be people out there that want your skills. So don't accept being micromanaged and having changes and changes and changes, and then they shout at you, and then they bawl at you, and then they have raging arguments. Life's too short for that kind of nonsense. That's unacceptable behavior by your manager. Okay? I'm sure you can think of other words, We're all adults here. I'm sure you could think of other words to describe that environment and that micromanager, who he or she is or are. You know the words that I don't want to say, but you know them. You're thinking about them. You don't have to put up with that nonsense. Really important. I know I've gone on about it, but it's really important to let the person have ownership of the thing that you have asked them to do. You'll have a happier employee. They'll want to come to work. They'll want to be proud of the thing that they deliver to you, whether that's a report or a project or a presentation or whatever it is that you've asked them to do. They'll be, hey, done this thing. Here it is. I'm happy to go and discuss it with you when you've had a chance to review it, but I'm really proud and pleased with what I've done for you today in this last 2 weeks that you've given me, or this project that's taken me a month to do. I know you're going to like it. It's exactly what what you're looking for, and I'm pleased to present it to you. You've got a happy employee because that's what you wanted. Because that means that you take that up the chain of command, because you probably have a manager above you or a director or someone else. And so it might not go directly to the client. There may be a third party, a more senior manager than your line manager, who has to approve that. And so you're going to want to make sure that it's right before you send it up the line. And if you've given the person ownership and you've briefed them on how to do it and you've let them do it and they've presented it to you, it's more likely to meet your objectives and pass muster from your boss, and everyone's happy. You've got a happy employee. Yay, really pleased about that. Did great work. They're really happy with that project that I did for my boss that's taken me 3 weeks, 4 weeks. That is going to keep the employee happy. It's going to make them want to come into work on the next morning, or a Monday morning when it's a cold and wet and there's 3 inches of snow on the ground. Going to come into work today because I'm making a difference. I'm doing good work and my boss is happy. That's what you want. You're not going to have that kind of employee wanting to come to work if you are micromanaging them, living daylights out of them. They will get stressed. They will be off work. They will leave. Or you're going to have a disciplinary matter on your hands for unfair treatment. You may even get a constructive dismissal claim on your hands, where that person has been good at keeping records. And if they're autistic, they probably are very good at keeping records. They probably got a spreadsheet at home on their computer at home about Tuesday, 2 o'clock. In the design office, my boss had a go at me about X, Y, and Z, and it was witnessed by this person, this person, this person. If he's got a spreadsheet like that with 20 things on it, yeah, constructive dismissal case right there. They leave, they go and see an employment lawyer. The employment lawyer looks at that and goes, yeah, we've got a case. All because you've got a micromanager who cannot let go of the reins and let your employees do the job you've asked them to do. If the business was savvy, they might know about this, but they might be trying to train them. They might be trying to give them courses. Their boss might have a word with them about things from time to time. We've had a fair bit of turnover the last 6 months in your department. Is everything okay? Oh, we can't get anyone to work. They don't want to work for us anymore. No one wants to work. Yeah. If your manager is saying that to his manager, you know exactly where the problem is. And a good senior manager will spot that, should be able to spot that. And they either have to train that person, or they have to think about whether there's a future for that person, that micromanager in the team. Because if you're getting high turnover of people and the department next door isn't, and the department on the next floor isn't, maybe we've got a micromanaging problem or a manager problem. Think about it. Think really hard about it. If you're a business and you've got high turnover in one particular department, and the boss keeps saying, well, we can't retain staff, they just don't want to work for us anymore. No one wants to work. And they sit back and they go, no one wants to work anymore. Yeah, that might not be the answer. That might not be the reason. All this stems from letting your employees, whether they're autistic or not autistic, whether they've got Asperger's or whether they're neurotypical. If you pound them to death with changes and micromanaging, and looking over their shoulder and making changes and doing this, you will demoralize them to the point of illness and leaving, and potentially a claim against your business. So think really carefully about how you manage your teams. Think really carefully about what it is you're exposing your business to by having someone who is constantly on the back of their employees all the time. And it's also possible that that micromanager has a bit of a attitude, a bit of a temper, a bit of a has been known to shout and swear and scream and make some of the employees cry and all of those things, where you've got an aggressive manager that the staff are scared of, absolutely scared of, and no one wants to speak out because they've seen what he or she does. When someone made a mistake last week, absolutely bored them out in the office, made them cry. So if you've got an environment of fear because your micromanager is an aggressive, abusive bully, you've got a serious problem. And it might take until the 5th or 6th or 10th person has left before someone has the courage to stand up and say, I'm leaving because of this. This is my reason, and I'm going to see an employment lawyer because this is unacceptable. Be very, very careful about that. So if you've got a high turnover in one particular department, look below the surface. It won't be smooth. It won't be plain sailing because your micromanaging boss feels as though they have to rule with a rod of iron and no one gets a say. Everyone is scared stiff of them. We've covered quite a bit in depth about letting your employees do work at their own pace. We've seen the pitfalls of what can go wrong if you've got a micromanager who's always on their back, making changes, doing this, doing that, doing that. You will lose staff, people will be off sick, and you've got potential claim for harassment, constructive dismissal, unfair dismissal, all sorts of things. Really important. As I said earlier, we are in the 3rd decade of the 21st century. The 1980s started 43 years ago. The 1980s weren't 5 or 6 years ago. The 1980s started 43 years ago. Come on, we can do better. We should have more enlightened managers who are inspiring their workforce to do great and wonderful things, to come up with new ideas, new innovations, better way of doing something, more efficient ways of doing something, new products, new services, because you'll give them the freedom to express themselves. Even that is who you might consider, where are we? The lowly person at the bottom of the rung. They might be there because it's their first job, but they might be super skilled and they'll be watching, listening as to what is happening. And if they've got 2 years experience under their belt and think, this isn't the place for me, they're not going to let me shine here, they'll go somewhere else. Think very carefully about that. Just because someone is at the bottom of the rung does not mean that they are the lowest person in your team. My name's Andrew Marsh and I'm autistic, and I work with employers to help them better manage autistic employees in their business. If what I've been saying today is of interest to you and you want to know more about how to manage Asperger's syndrome and autism in the workplace, please feel free to get in touch. I have a website which is on over my shoulder there at aspergersmatters.com. And there's a contact form there. And you can also email me at andrew@aspergersmatters.com. And I would love to have a free, no obligation 30-minute consultation with you to see how I can help you, whether we're a fit and whether there's any merit in seeing if we can work with you on a commercial basis to help you better manage people in your teams. If you get more productive workers, you're going to have more productive business. That's easy to understand. So take a look out for tomorrow when I will be putting a video of this on the YouTube channel. And again, if you want to know more about how to manage Asperger's in the workplace, this is episode 97. So there's 96 previous episodes of Talking Asperger's with Andrew on my YouTube channel. There's bound to be something there that's of interest to you that can help you in your business manage people with Asperger's and autism in your business. And if you can help them thrive and shine, yes, please do that. Please do that. Keep a lookout tomorrow on Friday for what next week's topic will be. And I look forward to seeing you again. So if you're watching on the YouTube channel, thanks for watching. And please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe to my YouTube channel. And look forward to seeing you again next week. So take care.